Hello and welcome cyber chemistry students. Today we're going to be talking about English measurement conversions. So if you are not aware of this, the United States uses what is typically referred to as the English system of measurements, and we use measurements like gallons and feet that are not used widely throughout the world. So for the most part, the world actually uses something called the metric system. You've probably heard of the metric system from other science classes that you've taken in the past. And we're actually going to learn about both. So today we're going to work on English measurement conversions, and in a later class we'll talk about metric unit conversions. Just so you are aware, the actual process is the important part here. What I'm teaching you today is actually how to set up problems by converting units, a thing that we're going to use throughout the entire year. I care less about you getting the correct answer than you showing me the correct setup for these problems, since after today, we won't be converting English units anymore. We're just using this as a basis for moving forward and learning how to convert from one unit to another. So, if we take a look at our first slide, you'll notice a bunch of writing here. Well, I've actually posted a few articles in your folder about what can go wrong when you don't convert units properly. So in the first article, I shared a story about a Mars orbiter that NASA had sent up into outer space as one of the first missions to Mars. And because of an error with units, basically a company sending English units and NASA interpreting them as metric units, we lost $125 million Mars orbiter, just kind of kept going off into outer space. So I just want to make sure that you can read that article and get its context for how important I think units are and how I'm going to press you to make sure you include units on all of your answers throughout the year. So let's take a look at this for a second here. If you read the article, you'll find out that this simple unit error cost $125 million. So to put that number into perspective, I wanted to give you this kind of analogy here. Imagine that there are about 25 people in our class. And let's say on average, we work for about 40 years in our lifetime. So let's say we get our first job at 25 years old and we hopefully retire around 65. So each one of us will work for about 40 years in our lifetime. So every one person will work for 40 years. Now, 25 times 40. 25 times 40. That's about 1,000 years of work combined between all 25 of us. Now, let's say on average that we make a salary of, well, let's say when we start we make $50,000, and when we finish, maybe we're doing really well and we make $150,000. So on average over that 40-year span, let's just call it an even $100,000. That would be an excellent salary for us. So if you multiply all of that out, you'll find that the 25 of us will make a total amount of money of about $100 million over the course of our entire lifetime. So going back to the Mars orbiter example, some person forgetting to put units on a number as it was transmitted from one company to another cost NASA $125 million. That's more money than all of us will make in our entire lifetimes combined. So if I take off points for units, it's because I don't want you to be this person. I don't want you to cost an agency or your job $125 million, because I'll tell you, It was a rough morning for whoever made that mistake when they woke up and found the Mars orbiter kept going instead of circling Mars like it should have. All right, all kidding aside, today we're going to take a look at some unit conversions. We're actually going to use this process up here, which is sometimes referred to as factor label method, or better or more commonly known as dimensional analysis. If you haven't seen this in math class already, you will very shortly. So let's take a look at our first problem. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be using something called conversion factors. Conversion factors are like multiplying by 1, but because they have 2 different units, it allows us to change from one unit to another. So let's take a look at this example. How many seconds are there in 3 minutes? Now, if I asked most of you how many seconds are there in 3 minutes, you would come back with 180 seconds almost immediately. But the important part of this is what went on up here in order for you to go from 3 minutes to 180 seconds. You needed to know something. What you needed to know was that there were 60 seconds in every minute. So I'm going to write that down as our equivalency over here. So what you did in your mind was the following. We started off with our given information, 3 minutes. You then used your knowledge of 60 seconds per 1 minute. And then you multiplied 3 times 60 equals 180 seconds. Does everyone understand? Now, in most of the problems that we're doing, I'm not concerned about you getting the right answer. I'm very concerned with you setting up this problem correctly. Anyone can type numbers into a calculator and get a final answer, but setting up the problem correctly so that it allows us to get to that final answer is the most important part here. Notice and remember from math, when you have something that is on the top and the bottom of a fraction, you're going to cross that out. So in this case, my unit of minutes here and here drops out. So I'm left with a unit of seconds. When you are setting up these equivalencies, what you want to do is put the unit that you want to go to on the top of the fraction. On the bottom of the fraction, you're going to put the unit that you want to cancel out. So the desired unit should end up on top. The unit you want to cancel out, minutes in this case, should end up on the bottom. We wind up with 180 seconds. When you're typing this into the calculator, if the number is on top, you're going to multiply by that number. If the number is on the bottom, you're going to divide by that number. Please don't waste your time typing in ones into the calculator. So if you have a 1 on top or you have a 1 on the bottom, you can ignore that and move on. So in this case, I'm going to type in 3 times 60. I'm not going to worry about the 1 down here to get my 180 seconds. Let's try another example. This one you probably can't do in your head. How many seconds are there in 3 hours? So we're trying to get to seconds just like we were in the previous problem, but this time we're starting off with hours. Now, some of you might already know that there are 3,600 seconds in 1 hour, 60 seconds per minute, 60 minutes per hour. However, let's say you didn't know that, and you're going to set up your equations like the following. In this case, we know that each 1 hour has 60 minutes in it. Because hour is the unit that I want to get rid of, it's going to go on the bottom of my fraction. Minutes is the unit that I want to get to, So it's going to go on top. Now it's not the final one, but it's going to help me get to my final unit. In the next fraction, now I would like to get rid of that minute. So I'm going to put 1 minute on the bottom and 60 seconds on top. When I do this, my unit of hours crosses out, my unit of minutes crosses out, and I'm left, as you can see here, with units of seconds. And that's what I want for my final answer. When I type this into the calculator, I have 3 times 60, because 60 is on top, times 60 again, because 60 is on top, and I get 10,800 seconds. Is that clear? Now, eventually we're going to start looking at numbers including significant figures. So in this case, if I have one significant figure here, I would wind up with an answer of 10,000 seconds here. Let's take a look at a few more examples. Okay, looking at these examples, again, what I'm looking for you to do is to pay attention to how I'm setting up the problems. That is the important and takeaway message for today. So if we look at this first one, it says convert 16.7 inches into feet. So I have 16.7 inches, and I want to convert it into feet. So remember, the unit that I want to get rid of should go on the bottom, and the unit that I want to end up with should go on top. So I'm going to say 12 inches in 1 foot. That allows me to cross out my unit of inches and end up with units of feet. So type this into your calculator. You're going to do 16.7. You can ignore the 1 on top, so don't even worry about that. Divided by 12, because the 12 is on the bottom. So if a number is on the bottom, remember we're going to divide by that. So we're going to have 16.7 divided by 12. So when you complete this, you get an answer of 1.391666, and it keeps going, feet. Use the number out front to determine your number of significant figures. So the number 16.7 has 3 significant figures in it. That means our answer is limited to 3 significant figures. So this will turn out to be 1.39 feet. Let's take a look at the second problem. It says, convert 25 yards into feet. So the problem also tells you, in case you're unaware, there are 3 feet in a yard. So because I want the unit of yard to cancel out, I'm going to put that on the bottom. I'm going to put 3 feet on top. Now, multiplying across, I wind up with 75 feet. I have 2 significant figures here. I have 2 significant figures in my answer. Let's take a look at the third problem. Convert 90 centuries into years. So I have 90 centuries. There are 100 years in a century. I had a few students that mentioned 10, so 10 is actually called a decade. So there are 100 years in a century. So because I want the term century to cross out, I'm going to put that on the bottom. 1 century. 1 century is equal to 100 years. 90 times 100. That's an answer of 9,000 years. Notice, one significant figure here, one significant figure here. Okay, let's take a look at problem number 4. So I have 84 ounces and we're converting it into pounds. As it says in the problem, there are 16 ounces in 1 pound. So what we're going to do is we're going to put ounces on the bottom. 1 pound. Pound is abbreviated as LB. So there's 1 pound on top. We divide, because the number's on the bottom, we get an answer of 5.25 pounds. Now, that's a problem. Here we have 2 significant figures. Here we have 3 significant figures. So we have to round our final answer, 5.25, so that it has just 2 significant figures. So we wind up with an answer of 5.3 pounds. Okay, in our 4th and final example, we're going to go over how to convert 4.75 miles into feet. So we're going to start off again with the number that we're given, 4.75 miles. We're going to convert that into feet. Now, each 1 mile, I want miles to go on the bottom, so it crosses out. Each 1 mile is 5,280 feet. 4.75 times 5,280, that turns out to be 25,080 feet. Notice we have 3 significant figures here, so we need to round our answer so that it has 3 significant figures. Currently it has 4 significant figures, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to round that so that it has just 3 significant figures. So this is going to end up being 25,100 feet. So what I would like to do next is I'm going to take a minute to show you how I would like you to type this into your homework assignment, because typing in fractions sometimes becomes a challenge because we have multiple lines that we need to use in order to convey that information. So I'm going to leave this up here behind me, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch over to the computer so I can show you how I would like you to type this into your assignment. Okay, now you can see the assignment in front of you. Please make sure, again, as always, to guarantee that you can save your answers. Open up your document in Adobe Acrobat Reader. So that usually involves you saving it to the desktop, right-clicking on it, and then selecting Open with Adobe Acrobat Reader. When I made this assignment, I made sure to leave at least 3 lines. You're going to use all 3 of these lines to type in your work. So I'm going to start off by showing you if I have 16.7 inches. What I am asking for you to do is to set up the problems just like they look behind me on the board. So I actually have 3 different lines here. On the first one, I'm going to type in 16.7 inches like I have right here. Then I'm going to use my conversion factor, as you can see behind me. 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So I'm going to type in 1 foot up here. Then I'm going to jump down here and type in 12 inches. You might have to use the space bar to move your answer back and forth. And then finally, I'm going to type in my final answer of 1.39 feet. For the second problem, we're going to convert 25 yards to feet. So again, I'm going to start off with 25 yards. I'm going to go to the next line, and I'm going to type in the multiplication sign, which is just an X, and then my fraction. I hit the equal sign as well. Then I'm going to type in, as you saw earlier, up on the first line, we're going to type in that we have 3 feet in every 1 yard. And that turns out to be an answer of 75 feet. And you could abbreviate that. For the next one, we have 90 centuries. We're going to try and convert that to years. So we have, and I'm just using the hyphen to generate that line that you see there. And then we have every 1 century is equal to 100 years. So we wind up with an answer of 9,000 years. Question number 4. We want to convert 84 ounces into pounds. We're going to hit times and then draw our line. We know that every 16 ounces is equal to 1 pound. And finally, we can report our final answer, which was the 5.3 pounds. You can either report your final answer or show it ahead of time with the extra figures in there and then correct for significant figures. So it's completely up to you. Okay, for the next one, we have 4.75 miles. The abbreviation for miles is MI. We do times, and then our line here. Every 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. So remember, this came out to be 25,080 feet, but when we correct for significant figures, it's 25,100 feet. Okay, so your homework assignment is to finish these problems, numbers 6 all the way up to 14. Don't know why I skipped number 12, but don't worry about it. So numbers 6 to 14, I would like you to finish, and then please submit that on Schoology. Thanks very much, everyone. I hope you have a great day.